Hello, Victory and Praise, and family and friends, and welcome to week 2 of our Level Up Bible Study series. So, this week we will be delving into worship and what it means to level up our worship. And so, we're going to concentrate and kind of focus our tonight's lesson on Romans 12 and 1, specifically in the New Living Translation. And it reads, "And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him." And so this is a fairly common passage of scripture, but what I love about this particular passage is where it talks about, it says, "I plead with you to give your bodies to God." And so, because in that particular passage, in that statement there, he's talking about giving your life to God because of all he has done for you. And when you think about that, if we stopped and took a moment there, because a lot of us will say, "I've given my life to God. I've accepted Christ." Maybe you did the sinner's prayer, and you accepted Christ into your heart, and I'm a Christian, and that's great, and that's what we need to do. That's what we should do. But there's another level beyond that. The next level, if you will, is to become a worshiper. And that is not something that we can declare ourselves. We have to be declared a worshiper, and that comes based on the life that we live, based on us giving our lives to God, truly, because it is he who will, through the process of transformation and doing those things, make us a worshiper. But it will require that we give our lives to him, give our lives to him fully. And so, without anything held back, without anything placed before him, and that's challenging. That's not an easy thing. If it was easy, you would not have, it would not say, "I plead with you." Okay, there would be no pleading necessary if that was something that was easy to do. The next part of it says, "Let them be a living and holy sacrifice." So here we are, we find ourselves in the New Testament scripture. And for those of you that remember, in the Old Testament, there was a common practice of sacrificing an animal unto God, right? And so in this particular passage, it's basically saying, we don't want a dead animal sacrifice. It says, let your life be the living and holy sacrifice. Let your life, the life you live, be the sacrifice. Let that be the holy sacrifice. And then it goes on to say, with the pause in there, and it's not a pause for a dramatic effect. It's a pause for clarity, to say the kind that he, and I wish the he was capitalized, because the he we're talking about is God. The he we're talking about is the great I am. And so it says the kind that he will find acceptable. And so only he can make the determination as to whether or not your sacrifice is acceptable. So you need to give it to the one who can make the declaration of whether or not your life that you've lived as a sacrifice to him is acceptable. And then it goes on to say, this is truly the way to worship him. And I love the fact that it ends that way, because we all have different ideas or thought processes about what worship is. If you go to Google and you Google worship, you'll come up with a bunch of different either definitions or things that are listed as worship. And a lot of those are acts of worship. They are not worship. And again, I want to be clear about that, because, and I've also heard this statement, and it's said a lot, that worship is a lifestyle. And and while it sounds good, and it when you hear it initially, it's like, oh, It sounds good. It sounds true. Well, it's not 100% true, because the worship lifestyle is actually a byproduct of you living that life, that holy life as a sacrifice, the one that we just talked about that he deems acceptable. You giving your life to him as a living and holy sacrifice, that produces the worship lifestyle. Okay, that's what that worship is a lifestyle comes from. That's what's produced of that, because you'll produce or become what you commit to, what you spend a lifetime in commitment to, or whatever you give yourself to. And so, in fact, if you're going to be a worshiper, you have to give your life to God. You have to give your life to that. You have to give your life to him in order for that to take place. And so the worship lifestyle is a byproduct of the fact that you've given your life to him. And so lifestyle in general, whether it be a healthy lifestyle, criminal lifestyle, whatever lifestyle you're currently living, it's a byproduct of what you have given yourself to. Okay, if you've given yourself fully to being healthy, fully to exercising, or whatever that thing is, it will produce a lifestyle of health. It will produce a healthy lifestyle. That means you will have things, you'll do certain things on a regular, consistent basis, because you have given yourself to being healthy, to being fit, to being in shape. And so that means that you're going to have a lifestyle of working out. That means you're going to have a lifestyle of eating healthy. You're going to do certain things as a result of what you have given yourself to. So hopefully that makes some sense. I'm kind of able to clarify that a little bit more. And so in John chapter 4 and 23, where it talks about worshiping God in spirit and in truth, the truth that we're talking about there is the truth of your life. That your life is the truth. Like, because think about it. If in Romans it's saying that our lives should be presented to him as a living and holy sacrifice, this is truly the way to worship him. Then when it says we need to worship him and in spirit and in truth, we know that there's a part of us that's spirit. So we understand that aspect. The other part that it's talking about, or that it's calling for there when it says in truth, is our life, is the truth of your life. Because your life is going to tell the story. There's truth about all of our lives, and if we be honest, and if we tell the truth in church, most of our lives, the truth of it does not say that we are worshipers of God. I mean, let's just be real. If it, and tell the truth like it is, most of us, if our lives were to tell our story, if it was to speak for us truly, like if my life just audibly could start speaking and talking about me, I don't know if it would. I don't know if it would totally say that he's a worshiper. My life might not tell that story, and that's maybe true for a lot of us. But we will call ourselves worshipers in a moment's notice. We'll say we're a worshiper, but I think if our life could actually speak like audibly at that very same moment, it might say, "No, it's not. No, you're not." It's funny because sometimes you ever had your kid that speak out of turn. You're talking to somebody and you may be saying something or whatever, and your child will jump in the conversation and say, "Mom, no, it's not," or "Dad, it's not like that," or whatever, and you want to tell them, "Shut up, nobody was talking to you." You want to tell, because kids don't know better. So they just call it, they just speak the way it is, right? That this is what it is. When they're young, as they get older, they learn more how to lie. But when they're young, look, the truth, they just speak it the way it is. And so you sitting here trying to tell whatever story you telling, however you're telling it, and the child is sitting there going, wait a minute, it's not that way, right? I just get the envision that our life, if it could speak in those moments when we're declaring ourselves worshipers, if it could speak, it would say, no, it's not. It's not like that. And so God is calling us to level up, meaning that we need to now take our life and give it to Him fully. Don't leave anything out. Don't hold anything back, because it's in that space that we still leave room for other things to come in. We still leave room for other things to happen. So it requires that we truly give our lives to Him 100%. And that's tough. That's a challenge. Look, Romans 12:1 in the King James Version reads, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. Now, the King James Version calls it a reasonable service. New Living calls it says this is truly the way to worship Him. And so if we try to reconcile those two verses, where King James says it's your reasonable service, worshiping God is our reasonable service. And when you look at it that way, it's like, and it makes sense, right? Because if we worship God for who He is, well then in that sense, that's 100% true. Worshiping Him truly is our reasonable service. When you think about all of who God is, when you think about all of what He is, when you think about, not even just what He's done, because this is beyond that, just who He is, it should bring us to a place of reverence. It should bring us to a place of admiration. It should bring us to a place of worship, where we say, because of who you are, I worship you. Because of who you are, I give my life to you. Now, giving one life to anything is, in essence, the ultimate sacrifice that one can make. Christ gave His life for us. He made the ultimate sacrifice. And so now in turn, God is saying in this particular time, whereas that we need to give our lives back to Him. That's the ultimate sacrifice. And giving one's life, whether it be for a person or, for whatever particular thing, is the ultimate sacrifice. All of us have at least one person in our life we would give our lives for. Like I have a list of people that I would give my life for. And so if you think about that, since we all have people that we will give our lives for, and yet none of them are the great I am. None of them comes close in all of their greatness and all of their wonder and splendor. None of them comes close to being who God is. And we'll sit down or hold back on God. But we'll say, God, I give you my life. But to say that is completely different than to actually do it. I mean, because there comes a moment of truth when I may say I'll give my life for my son, but then when the opportunity comes for me to give my life for him, and I don't, then all of that other stuff was just lip service. Everything I said prior to that moment was lip service. We lip service God a lot. We'll say, God, I give my life to you. Yet, there'll be things that we continue to do or that we hold back on that we know we shouldn't, or there'll be things that we place in front of him. But then at the same time, still try to profess that we've given our lives to him. And so the truth, where in John 4 and 23 and 24 that is talking about is, let that statement out of your mouth actually be true. Let your life actually reflect what we're saying. Let the truth of your life and what comes out of our mouths, let those two things actually meet. Let them reconcile. Let them be one. Let them have oneness, because it's true. I can say it and my life can support it because I've spent a lifetime doing it. I spent a lifetime in a yielded position, in a position of giving my life to God. And so as you all delve into this particular lesson tonight, I'm excited about what will come out of this. Now, I focus specifically on Romans 12 and 1, but there are other scriptures that go along with that, with the message as well. And I'll give you those so you have them, just in case you missed it. It was John chapter 4, verses 23 through 24, New Living Translation. Of course, Romans 12 and 1, and then it was Exodus 34 and 14, also in the New Living Translation. Those are the scriptures that were referenced in the message on Sunday. However, we did focus for our Bible study tonight on Romans 12 and 1. And so, God bless you to all of you.
Thank you for joining us today for a small group. We look forward to worshiping with you on Sunday. You can find us on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. We broadcast at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and again at 5 p.m. on Sunday. Also remember that you can send your offering via Cash App or the Victory and Praise app. We look forward to seeing you soon. Remember, Victory and Praise Stockton, 2029 East Harding Way, right here in the city of Stockton.